Hi everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on developing ideas. This is the first exam that you're going to encounter that is not a multiple choice exam in the program. So a lot of students can have some anxiety and feel overwhelmed about completing this exam. But the good thing about it is that the first 4 questions are short answer, so it builds up to writing paragraphs for the last 2 questions. And this webinar is going to help you with the ins and outs of the exam. So before we get started, I just want to introduce everybody to the English department for Penn Foster High School. My name is Megan. I'm one of the senior instructors, as well as Elena, and then Sean's the third English instructor. And then we have Anthony, Laura, Katie, and Caitlin, who are English TAs. So if you ever have any questions about any writing assignment, any English question in general, you can give us a call, email us, get in touch with us, and we'll help you out with anything that you need. And just like all of your Penn Foster lessons, this webinar also has learning objectives. Upon the completion of this webinar, you will know how to access, complete, and submit the exam, how to review exam feedback, as well as knowing why following instructions is important and why not to plagiarize. So we're going to get started by going over how to prepare and to access the exam for this lesson. So to get started, we just want to clarify that we know that Take Exam button can be pretty tempting to click right when you first see it show up in your material, but you don't want to start any lesson by doing this. All of your exams leading up to this lesson are multiple choice, so naturally you'd be thinking that you know what to expect when you click on Take Exam. However, doing this won't bring you to an exam, rather it opens up a project upload page. This can be confusing since it's the very first written exam you'll need to complete. So what should you do? You want to read your study material carefully first and complete all practice work. This will set you up for success because when you reach the exam questions, they'll make more sense and you'll have a better idea of what's expected of you on this exam and how to submit it when you're ready. So since we've already brought up this exam is different than any other exam you've completed so far, and here's how. It's a written exam, not a multiple choice exam. Like I said before, the first 4 questions are short answers, so you're going to be writing out a sentence or 2 as your responses. Questions 5 and 6 are paragraphs that you'll have to respond to. And when you click on the Take Exam button for this lesson, it does not give you exam information like you're used to. It brings you to a page that gives you instructions on how to upload your saved exam. So that's why it can be confusing if you just go right to that Take Exam button without reading everything over carefully first. Another way this exam is different is because grading time is between 5 and 7 business days. It doesn't happen instantly like it does with a multiple choice exam. So when you submit this exam for grading, it takes a few days to be reviewed because it does involve writing. So the person grading your exam is going to make comments and corrections on there to help improve your writing for your next exam. And just so you know too, when you submit an exam, we don't hold you back. When you submit this exam, you can start working on the very next lesson in practical English. So that way you're working on something while you're waiting on the grading. So when you're going through your study material, and I'm going to keep stressing this, how important it is to make sure that you read this material over carefully. When you go through the study material for the Developing Ideas lesson, which is the 4th lesson in Practical English, you're going to want to keep an eye out for this. The page is going to say Developing Ideas Lesson Examination, and it's going to, this whole entire page that you're going to read is going to go over how to save the exam, how to submit it, and give the exam instructions. So I just wanted to share this with you so you know what to expect when you're going through your lessons. That when you see this, you want to stop and really look things over carefully because this is the exam you need to complete. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to stress again the importance of making sure that you read and study all the lesson material carefully to prepare for all exams and not just this one. but especially for this one as well as the next one, just because the exam instructions are within the study material. Once you reach these exam instructions, it's going to give you a roadmap of what you need to complete, almost like how a GPS gets you from point A to point B. The exam page, when you reach it, is going to give you, like I said, how to submit the exam, how to save it, the exam questions, but also you're going to get plagiarism information, which is actually going to be right before it, how to submit the exam, the 6 exam questions, an exam checklist, which is really good to go over because that checklist is basically just set up as yes or no questions. If you can answer yes to all of the questions on the checklist, you're good to submit your exam for grading. If you answer no to any of them, it's something you want to go back and pay special attention to and revise before you submit it again. And also something very important is going to be the rubric. The rubric is basically just a chart we use to grade your exam. It shows you how many points each question is worth, so you'll know where your range is on it. For example, the first 4 questions are worth 10 points apiece. The last 2 are worth 30 points. So it breaks down how many points you can earn for each area. So now that we've gone through that, the next part that we're going to get into, it's going to go into how to get the exam started, going over instructions, saving it, writing out your answers, and then submitting it for grading. So the first thing I want to address is that since it's a written exam, if you plan on submitting your exam online, which is the best way to get it in, there's a couple of programs that you can use to submit your exam for grading. The instructions say Microsoft Word, and we say that because that's actually what we use to grade your work. So if you have Microsoft Word, go ahead, use that. There shouldn't be any problems with submitting it for us opening it all. But Microsoft Word, it allows you to save them in these 3 file formats that you see here, the .doc, .docx, or .rtf. If you don't have Microsoft Word, that's completely okay. Don't worry about going out and buying it or anything like that. There's a lot of other options. If you have a PC, not a Mac, if you have a PC, it should come with a program called WordPad on it. In WordPad, you can save your documents in rich text format, and that shouldn't be a problem again with submitting it to us for grading. So say if you don't have Microsoft Word, don't really have access to WordPad, another option, which is a good one, is to use Google Docs. It's part of the Google family of products. And one of the good things about it is that if you already have a Gmail account, it's great you have access to it already. If not, it's free to sign up for one. And one of the good things about it is that it automatically saves everything for you. Coming up, I'm going to go over the importance of how to save your work and things like that. But if you're typing up your developing ideas exam at home and say that you have a doctor's appointment and you're in the waiting room for a little while, you can open it up on your phone and continue working on it too. Everything's going to be saved for you. So that is a good part of using Google Docs. It does have its own component in terms of what you need to do to save your work for it, because you have to download the Google Docs file to your computer, and it's best if you download it as a rich text document to make sure that we can open it without any problems. And in the handout section, there is information about how to do that, so you can download that when you're ready to anytime during the presentation. So no matter what program you use, your file must be saved in one of the formats that we have listed here so that we can accept it for grading. And to go over them again, they're .doc, .docx, and .rtf. Our grading system is set up to only accept these types of files. So say if you try to upload another type of file that's like a PDF or a JPEG, you'll get a red error. Well, the error comes up in red that the file extension isn't valid. All that means is that you want to go back and make sure it's saved in one of those file extensions. And also, just to get this out now there too, you have to type your answers directly into the program. What you want to avoid doing is taking a picture or a screenshot and inserting it into Microsoft Word as an image and then submitting that, because we can't grade that because we can't work with the material. It does have to be something we can grade, correct, and make comments right on the text with. Excuse me. So if you have any trouble with submitting your work online, you do have another option of faxing or mailing it to the school. You want to contact us for how to do that, because we'll try to go over, if there's a way you can submit it online, try to work out those issues with you. But if you do have to mail or fax it in, that's okay. We'll give you all the information to do that when you give us a call. Another thing to note about the written exams, it's best if you use a desktop or laptop computer to complete it. Phones and tablets can be used, but saving and submitting the work can be a little tricky to impossible depending on the type of device and platform. But again, if that's what you're using, give us a call, give us an email, so that way we can send you information, because we do have a lot of help documents and help tutorials to try to help you out if you're using a phone or a tablet for it. And if it does come down to it, we can let you fax or mail it in if needed. So going on what I just went over before, I want to give some visuals about saving your work. And these are going to look very familiar, especially if you're using Microsoft Word or WordPad. You want to go to File and then Save As for both of these programs, and you're going to get little dialog boxes that open up like this. The two most important things to remember when you're saving your work, no matter what you're using, is to remember where on your computer or device that you're saving it, and that you want to name it something that you can easily recognize as this exam. You can name it Developing Ideas, Penn Foster, put your student number on it. So that way when you go to upload your work to us, there won't be any confusion, you may send us the wrong document, anything like that. So that way it won't delay your work getting reviewed. So now it's time to type the answers up. So there's a couple things that you want to keep in mind when you're getting ready to do this. You want to read and reread the questions very, very carefully, and you want to be sure that you're following the instructions too. Following instructions is very important. It's just as important as the answers, because if you don't read the instructions carefully, you may miss something that may cause a point deduction, or we couldn't grade it right away. A story I like to share about instructions happened when I was a freshman in college, and I was an English major, and this was a literature course. And it was a cool course because it combined reading and then like art of the times, wherever we cover a bunch of different time periods. And about a month into the course, we had to write our first paper, and we could choose anything we read in the course at that point to write about. So I wrote my paper on Medea, who is a figure in Greek mythology. And the professor knew that we were mostly freshmen. It was our first bigger college paper. He drew on the board how we should format it, because we had to follow a specific heading and things like that. And he knew we didn't have to do that in high school. So he drew 2 pages. So in my notes, I added that detail. When I typed my paper up, handed it all in, I got it back, and I got a C+ on the paper, which isn't bad. But there was also a note on the paper, too, that the grade was a gift, and I was crushed. It was my first college paper. It was an English class. I was an English major. And on top of that, the professor was actually a friend of my grandfather who used to teach at the college that I went to. So there was a lot kind of weighing me down on this. So when I got it back and looked it over, I was at his door the next time that he had office hours. We talked, and he said my writing was good, but I didn't follow the instructions given in the syllabus, which a syllabus is basically an outline of the course and requirements. And when you get into college, that's where a lot of the information about assignments are found. So the teacher would go over them, but all of the major details, they would just say, look at the syllabus. So we talked it over, and when I looked at the syllabus over with him, the paper had to be 5 pages, not 2. So he got a laugh out of why I only handed in 2 pages. So following instructions is very important. So that's why I'm always going to stress and encourage you to read things over carefully, reread them again to make sure that you're understanding them. And another thing about that I want to stress is that the first thing I did was go and talk to my teacher. If you have any questions about the exam and what you need to do, stop and give us a call. You can email us, you can chat with us. There's a lot of different ways you can get a hold of us. We can make sure that you're on the right track with everything. So that way there's no delays in getting that grade or anything like that. So never hesitate to call us, or like I said, get in touch with us any way that you prefer so we can help you out and make sure everything's okay. So back to the exam specifics, it's really important to follow the instructions for the exam because if something's missed, it could get returned. And a return isn't a bad thing at all. We're going to go over that a little bit later. But you figure if you do your work, you send it in, say it takes only 4 days to be reviewed, it gets returned, and then you make the revisions, you're waiting another 4 days possibly to get it in. So to save yourself some time, always make sure you read over everything carefully. And also, just a heads up too, you only have to type out the answers. You don't have to type out the questions if you don't want to. You don't lose points or anything like that if you do type out the question. So if that's what works best for you, you can, but you don't have to. The only thing we ask is that you do carefully number your responses because some of the questions do have two parts to them. Like question 1 has a part A and a part B. So you'd put 1A and then 1B and type your answers out. So to kind of help us with following instructions here, I have entailed the help of my dog Ziggy. Here he is outside of my house on a spring day, and he looks like he's very cute. There's no denying that, but him being cute helps him get away with a lot. But he's going to help us out with an example of dealing with topic sentences. So you're going to have to write 2 paragraphs for this exam, and it's important that you understand the importance of having a strong topic sentence and why all the details within the paragraph need to be related to that main idea. So take a few minutes to read over this paragraph, and I'll read it aloud for you as well. I opened the door and was greeted by shredded tissues scattered on the carpet. Walking through the house, there was a trail of chewed pens, gnawed plastic water bottles, and gutted stuffed dog toys. He was at it again. Ziggy was a sneaky puppy who loved to get into everything. As I was cleaning up, he followed me around, wagging his tail as if to say, "Hey, why are you messing with all of my hard work?" Later that night, he curled up in a ball and fell asleep while I watched TV. So I'll leave this up just for a little bit so you get a chance to look it over and pay special attention that each of the sentences have a number at the very beginning. So what we're going to do now, I have a poll I want to launch, and the paragraph's going to go away, but it'll come back. The first question I want you to answer about this is, what is the topic sentence of this paragraph about Ziggy? So just take a few seconds to answer that. And we'll let it be open for just about a minute before we go over the results. Just a few more seconds to go. Okay, so you should be able to see the paragraph back on your screen now. So most of you answered that sentence 4 was the topic sentence. And that is absolutely 100% correct, since almost every detail points back to the idea that Ziggy is a mischievous dog. And again, for the record, he is pretty sneaky. what the paragraph described has happened before. He likes getting into things. He likes pulling his toys out. So it's not uncommon to walk in the house and he's got toys from one end to the other. So now, same paragraph, but I have one more question I want to share with you too. Now, which of these sentences don't belong? There is one sentence that doesn't really point back at all to what the topic sentence is that should be taken out of the paragraph. So we'll launch that and just take a minute to look it over and answer. And we'll close this one up in just a little bit. Okay, we'll close that one and let's see what the results are. It looks like a majority of people said that sentence 3 was the one that could be removed, that it didn't point back to the main topic or topic sentence of the paragraph. The actual answer would be sentence 6. The very last sentence in the paragraph, that later that night he curled up in a ball and fell asleep while I watched TV. That's not related at all to how I went home and would find, stuff kind of torn apart from one end of the house to the other. So that one would be able to be removed and you'd still have a perfectly good paragraph that made sense. Another thing I want to point out too, and it talks about the topic sentence. The topic sentence here is a few sentences in. As you see, it's sentence 4. Topic sentences can be at the very first sentence, it can be the last sentence, it can be in the middle. I would suggest if this is your first time around writing, the best thing is to keep it at the beginning, because then that way you could always refer back to that very first sentence and know that everything that you have to write about needs to relate to that. So that'd be a good place to start. So the next exercise we're going to try is going to help you when you're writing your paragraphs. You're given a variety of topics to write about, so you want to select the one that you want to write about the most or have the most experience with. For example, if one of the topics was, which it's not, was to, explain the steps to creating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and you've never made a peanut butter and jelly sandwich before. Say, you don't like peanut butter, so why would you make one? You wouldn't want to choose that topic because it's not something you have experience with. So keep that in mind too, that we have a variety of topics for questions 5 and then question 6. So choose the one that you feel most comfortable writing about. So we're going to imagine that this is one of the topics to choose from to explain why owning a car is important to you. And we're going to read this over, and then I have another poll question to go over quickly. It is very important that I own a car. A car allows people to get from one place to another in a relatively quick manner. Owning one would make someone more reliable than someone who must use public transportation. It also allows young drivers to show that they are responsible. So I'll leave it up for just a little bit so you can read it over again. And then we've got one more poll we're going to launch about this one. Okay, so for this poll, I want you to tell me if you think that this paragraph effectively expands on the topic that is given. So the topic is to explain why owning a car is important to you, and I want you to tell me if you feel the paragraph expands on that appropriately. I'll let this go just a couple more seconds. Okay, we'll close that down for now. It does look like the majority of the results that I'm seeing show that people think that this paragraph does appropriately expand on the topic. The truth is that the paragraph doesn't really develop the topic in the right way. It starts out great with a really strong topic sentence, but however, if you notice that after that sentence, the details given about why owning a car is important are very general, and the topic specifically asks to explain why it's important to you. So you want to keep that in mind. If you choose a topic that asks something specifically of you, you want to share just your perspective. You don't want to give just general information. Keep it specific to you. So what we're going to see next, same topic, explain why owning a car is important to you. And now we're going to see that all of the details in this new paragraph relate to the topic sentence much better. It's specific since it gives examples as to why owning a car is important to this person. And we'll read this over too. It is very important that I own a car. If I had my own car, it would allow me to get to work, school, and complete errands more quickly since I wouldn't need to depend on anyone else to drive me. Also, the bus system in my town isn't reliable because the buses often run late. So by having my own transportation, it would decrease the number of times I'm late for work. It would also teach me to be more responsible. I would need to be sure I stayed on top of car payments, maintenance, and cleaning my car. It's important that I own one since it would benefit many different areas of my life. So you can see how these are very specific examples for this person by why owning a car is important. So say for example, you didn't need to, if this was a topic and you didn't need to own a car for any reason, say you live in a city that has really, really great public transportation, and I know they're out there. Cities like, larger cities like New York, they have a great public transportation system. Owning a car may not be important to you. So that would be a topic you may want to kind of, scratch out and move on to since you may not have a lot of experience with it or don't feel comfortable writing about it. So keep that in mind when you look over your topic choices. And we can't talk about writing without also talking about the seriousness of plagiarism. Like I mentioned before, your lesson does have a whole section dedicated to plagiarism, what it is, why not to do it, what can happen if you do plagiarize an exam for Penn Foster. But we're going to go over a little bit first about what plagiarism is, and this comes from the website plagiarism.org. And they say plagiarism means to steal and pass off the ideas or words of another as one's own, to use another's production without crediting the source, to commit literary theft, to present as new or original idea or product derived from an existing source. Your student catalog does cover plagiarism on the section on academic integrity. If an exam is plagiarized for the first time, you'll get a 1% for the exam. It's considered a warning. We know something happens. It would be a learning experience. If there's any further instances of it, a record would be placed under review. And the high school principal would take a look at things to see if, additional work needs to be done or if anything else needs to happen. So you do want to make sure that all the work that you do is your own writing. The exams in the program don't require any type of research. The ones for the core courses like this one. So if you don't feel you have enough information to write about, say how drunk driving can be stopped, you wouldn't want to select that topic. Choose the one that you do know a little bit more about that would work best for you. No research should be used. Like I said, I'm going to stress that. The internet shouldn't be used for help with this. If you need help with anything, you want to refer back to your study material. You want to get in touch with, someone here at the school so we can help you out. Because a lot of times it's just talking out, different topic ideas and, the way you were going with things. So keep that in mind too. You also have access to schedule an appointment for draft reviews. So you can pick a time that works for you. Send us a copy of your draft and we'll look it over and we'll call you back and let you know maybe some pointers on what needs to be fixed or say if something's missing. It's not a point by point review, but anything that stands out to us that needs to be fixed, we do go over with you. So really when it comes to plagiarism, the bottom line is don't do it. Your work is always going to be better than something that you can submit that's not your own. So this brings us to that you read the work, you have it all typed and saved. You're ready to get it in now. So here's basically a little bit of an outline of the process of how an exam gets in. So you click on that green Take Exam button when you're ready. You're going to select a file. Depending on the browser you're using, it may say choose file or browse for file. Clicking on it, the same thing's going to happen. And that's where it's important that you remember where you saved your exam on your computer or device and what you called it. Once you have it added to that upload page, you want to click submit. And what you're going to see on your portal, it's going to say RCD for this lesson now. That means received. You know that your file came through. Grading time, like I said before, is 5 to 7 business days, but you can move on to the next lesson and start working on that while you're waiting on a grade. So what happens next is once the results are in, you're going to see on your program and courses page with practical English, and it's going to be with lesson 4 because this exam is for the 4th lesson. There'll be a button that says view project or review feedback. When you click on it, you'll get an option to see a copy of what you submitted and then also a copy of the instructor feedback. The instructor feedback you want to click on to check, double check on the results for it. Your grades page is going to let you know if it was graded, what the grade is, or if it got returned. If it's a return, it's going to say RTN. That's why it's very important to look at the instructor feedback so you can understand why the grade is what it is and why something got returned if it got returned. And speaking of feedback, I just want to break down a little bit further what the different results of this exam could be. The first is that the exam gets graded and you get a 65 or higher, and that's passing. So if you get a 65 or higher on this exam, you're done. You don't have anything else you need to do for the lesson. You still want to review the comments and corrections that are made to help you improve your writing. Because say for your paragraphs, the instructor points out that, you have a couple of run-on sentences here, which is when more than one thought is jammed together into one sentence. We'll explain to you what it is, how to fix it, so you can keep an eye out for it for any of your future writing. So keep that in mind. And the written exams, there's a different retake policy for them. If you pass the exam with a 65 or higher, you are not eligible to do a retake for it. So keep that in mind, that whatever, if you get a 65 or higher, that's your final grade for the lesson. Now, the other option of what can happen is if your exam gets graded and you get below a 65, first thing to know is that you have to do a retake on this if you get a grade that's below passing. It's not optional. But the good news part about that is that it does give you another chance to improve your grade for the lesson and improve on your writing skills. The highest grade you can get is a 65 on a written exam for a retake, but again, that's passing. And again, we want to stress too that you want to review the comments and corrections to help you prepare your retake exam. So that way you can be on the lookout for things like run-on sentences, if there was a comma problem, if there was, any sentence structure issues, we'll make sure that we point them out and help you out with fixing them. And also something I want to point out too, that if you have to do a retake exam, your responses for questions 5 and 6 must be different. You can't submit the exact same responses again or the responses with the corrections that we did for you. So usually the best thing to do is to switch to a different topic. Basically pick the second thing that you want to write about the most and do that. That's a clear-cut way to make sure that you're changing up your paragraphs for it. There is a third thing that can happen with your exam results, and that is if your exam gets returned ungraded. Again, not a bad thing at all. It's actually, if an exam gets returned, it actually works in your favor, because say you forgot to include your response for question 6 by accident. Maybe it didn't save the right way, or you had saved in a different file somehow. So we would return it back to you and say, hey, question 6 is missing. Make sure you have everything together and resubmit it. So that way we're not taking 30 points off your exam right off the top. And then, you may lose other points in other areas. So if there's something glaring with the exam that we can't grade it, we'd return it back to you. If it's missing a question, if the wrong file was submitted by accident, and we know that happens, that's why we have that return option. So again, if you see RTN as the results, you want to review the instructor feedback to see why it was returned, make those needed revisions, and submit it again for grading. No matter what the results are, whether it's graded passed, graded and failed, or if it gets returned and you go over that feedback and you're not sure why the results were what they were, that's another thing that you want to, stop, give us a call, email us, chat with us, so we can help make sure you're on the right track with everything. So that about wraps everything up for the Developing Ideas exam. So we do have 2 more webinars coming up. Tomorrow, Sean is doing the webinar on writing, which is the last exam in practical English. And then Thursday, Elena's doing a webinar on the personal narrative, which is the longer essay you have to do that's in written communication. So if you are able to, I do suggest that you attend them. At the very least, you do want to register for them so you can get a recording. And again, if you do have any questions, you want to make sure that you let us know. We do have several different ways you can get in contact with us. You can call us. If you call us, make sure you select option 5, I believe it is, to get to the academic team so we can help you. You can email us from your portal. You should have the option to chat with us from your portal. And you also have the option to schedule an appointment for someone to call you. That's especially important if you want any type of draft reviews done for any 3 of these exams. So we can go over them with you, help you out before you get it in for grading. So if you had any questions, you need any advice on anything when it comes to writing exams or English in general, you just want to make sure that you let us know. I hope everyone enjoyed the webinar today, and I look forward to the next one, and hopefully we'll see you at the ones on tomorrow and Thursday. Thank you.